Gardezi. So me alongside Professor Tim Unwin would be moderating the session today. So those of you who have need sign language support. So we've got Mr. Nasreen Aghai, our sign language interpreter, and if you want, you can go to her screen and pin the video on your screen so that you would be able to see her more clearly. So, Professor Tim, are we good to go? Shall we start? We just.
Yes, I think that definitely you're the boss. So it's great. We've got 22 attendees already, and we have to remind them if they can use the chat as well if they have points. But over to you.
Yes. So just to a message to all the participants who are joining us at the moment. So please use the Q&A tab at the bottom of the screen to post. And we also have live human captioning support for this session as well. So if you can just click on the button of the closed caption and show subtitles, so you will have live human captioning support as well. So alongside, we also have sign language support provided by Miss Nasreen Aghai. So we have got 2 features of accessibility enabled here. So before, I think let us formally begin, and we should start off by welcome remarks by the Executive Director of Inter-Islamic Network on Information Technology and Director Lahore Campus at ComStats University Lahore. So let me just invite Dr. Tahir Naeem to start off with the welcome remarks. Dr. Tahir Naeem, the mic is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Akbar Gardezi. So with the permission of the organizers, it's my present duty to welcome all delegates, participants, Professor Tim Unwin, Ms. Gintajli, Dr. Akbar Gardezi to this opening session, or rather the only session of this webinar on digital accessibility in a COVID-19 world. Briefly taking this occasion and introducing you to the Inter-Islamic Network on Information Technology. Ladies and gentlemen, this entity is part of the OIC system. It was established by a resolution of the ComStech, which is the ministerial arm of the OIC on Science and Technology Cooperation. Ladies and gentlemen, as you understand, the ICTs have altered the very lives of all people. Not only that it has marginalized individuals and sections of population, it has also brought back into the mainstream those who were marginalized on account of several of their other deprivations, be it the social, economic, or gender-related things. So in a way that this digital accessibility offers us a promise. At this opening session, I will not take much of your time because I know that there is an interesting program coming up next. But I would like to subscribe that the discussions or sessions of this type are not an end in themselves. They are rather a means to the ends. So the very discussion that would take place, that would enrich us and allow us to get equipped, to get to know more about some of the policies, the programs, the best practices that have been, employed elsewhere. So in organizing an event of this sort, I would like to place on record my sincere thanks to Dr. Akbar Gardezi, Ms. Gintajli, Professor Tim Unwin, and I look forward to a very productive and useful discussion ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tahir Naeem, for those wonderful opening remarks. And I think I convey the sentiments of the attendees as well when I play this. Okay, so thank you very much. So we've got a good number of participants joining us from around the world. So we have got an interesting lineup for you today. So the session is digital accessibility in a COVID-19 world. So we have Professor Tim Unwin with us, who would be the main speaker in terms of opening the theme for the session. So he's the UNESCO chairholder at UNESCO chair in ICT 4D at University of London at Royal Holloway. Then we have got Dr. Tahir Naeem. So we just introduced him. So he would be speaking on accessibility issues in terms of education policy and governance. So then we have Mr. Julius Sweetland with us, joining us from London. He's the founder and CEO of OptiKey. So it's an assistive technology platform, and Julius will tell us more about it. Then we have Mr. Hamza Afridi joining us from Birmingham. So he is a user of assistive tech, and he is going to give us an overview of digital accessibility challenge from a first world perspective, because he's based in the UK. Then we're just waiting for Ms. Lubna Smida to join us from Tunisia. So she would be speaking in regards to the main challenge from a work in the African region. So she's also been a WSIS champion in the past. So then we have Professor Shahid Maiman and Ms. Shakila Yasmeen joining us from Karachi, from Pakistan Disabled Foundation, so who would be speaking on behalf of the challenges to digital accessibility from a South Asian or a developing country perspective. So I welcome all of my panelists who have joined us, and not the least, Ms. Nasreen Aghai, who is our sign language translator, and as you can see on the screen, that she would be providing sign language support. So now I hand over to Professor Tim Unwin to formally start the thematic discussion.
Thanks ever so much, Akbar. I think given so many of our colleagues are from Pakistan, I should begin by saying Assalamu alaikum and to Akbar and to Tahir for good friend Tahir, who opened and focused on the key points. I'm going to be as brief as I possibly can. Those of you who know me know I usually speak for far too long, but I really just want to make 3 points to set the ball rolling. The first is we usually at these sessions hear a great deal about how digital technology can be used to transform the lives of many people with disabilities. That is true, but I would like to suggest that invariably that doesn't happen. And in societies and contexts where there are inequalities, the use of digital technology all too often increases those inequalities. For example, put simply, many people with disabilities have to pay extra for assistive technology because most digital tech is insufficiently designed to be inclusive. So that would be the first point I'd make, that we need to try and mitigate the problems to enable the good to happen. The second point, building on that really, is that under COVID-19, people with disabilities have suffered hugely and disproportionately. Those of us who are more abled have been able to resolve the problems of COVID-19. Right at the beginning of the outbreak of the pandemic, the WHO suggested that people with disabilities, a whole range of disabilities, were at greater risk in contacting COVID-19. Therefore, of course, it's necessary for people with disabilities to protect themselves more, but that in turn brings themselves into greater difficulties. In lockdown, people with disabilities across the world, I've had so many reports, are unable even to get food, let alone to do the work that is so vital for their income and their self-esteem and well-being. People with disabilities are invariably those who are laid off work first. Likewise, the no contact practices that are being advocated as a means of protecting people. No contact practices are almost impossible for those with visual and locomotor disabilities. And the list could go on. Insufficient advisory materials have been made available in formats appropriate for use by people with disabilities. Now, again, digital tech can readily be used effectively to solve many of these problems. But looking around the world, and not just from the, I would have to say, the very disadvantaged position of the UK, we've handled COVID-19 appallingly as a country and government. Many countries have done better. But even looking at my country, we have so many advantages compared with those places of the world where COVID-19 has been expanding rapidly recently. I think very much of Brazil and India and indeed Pakistan. So digital tech can be used, but in most countries, strategies to support people with disabilities in pandemics through digital tech aren't there. So I think we have many lessons to be learned, and that's really the third point I make. The first was that where there are inequalities, digital tech can increase them. The second is people with disabilities have suffered disproportionately from COVID-19, and it is all of our responsibilities to do something about that. And the lessons that can be learned, I would just summarize three in conclusion. First of all, I think it just emphasizes that all digital technology should be inclusive in its design and use and implementation from the beginning, so that those with disabilities aren't marginalized. Secondly, I think a real lesson that we've learned is that we need to ensure that there are new resilient pandemic emergency policies and practices that can be implemented to support people with disabilities through the use of digital tech in such crises. That is what we must all be advocating for. We need those in place. And then finally, and I guess most importantly, that is we need to listen to and incorporate the voices of people with disabilities to respond to our brothers and sisters with disabilities, to learn from them about how we can all use digital tech more effectively and more equitably. So I am very, very humbled to be in the presence of people who do have disabilities, who are managing this. They're the ones we need to be listening to. They're the ones whose views we need to turn into coherent, sensible strategies. So Akbar, 5 minutes, I think I got it just under that. I hope that set the ball rolling. And once again, thanks to you and the organizers. I think it's very impressive to have our sister Nasreen signing and the captions, as it should be. So thank you to you and the organizers.
Thank you very much, Tim. Okay, so thank you very much for the wonderful opening, Professor Tim. And yes, indeed, we've got a very interesting lineup today. So we have got like the majority of our panelists are persons with disabilities. So I think it would be interesting to hear from them and learn from them more importantly. So I think before we begin, so let us take an account because as we divulge down into deeper and deeper into the main challenge of digital accessibility, so let us first invite Dr. Tahir Naeem to give us a first-hand account in terms of his experiences with managing digital accessibility and higher education in this COVID-19 situation. So I hand over to Dr. Tahir Naeem to
Thank you very much, Dr. Akbar. So as you said that there are a few other panelists who have to talk about specifically disability. So I would like to share one experience, which is for the normal operations of, the normal economic operations. And I will talk about a university or a higher education sector from Pakistan. So as many of you know, when this pandemic COVID-19 hit us, it was the spring semester that was going on. It all started in January of this year, but when it reached Pakistan, it was around the middle of March, and it started to assume a varying proportion by that time. So the government of Pakistan decided to close the universities towards the middle of March, and the regulator, which in Pakistan is the Higher Education Commission, it responded very briskly and brought out some policy guidelines. So these policy guidelines required that those universities which are digitally connected and they have a preparedness to address or to impart the education, they should forthwith shift their online their classroom education to the online education. So the university at which I work has already has a portal which is indigenously developed within the university, and it was being used for several of the other communications with the students, but with little adaptation, we moved on to make it used for the online education. And the Higher Education Commission, which is the regulator, as I said, it helped the universities in creating the Microsoft Team account for all the students and faculty. It at a bulk purchase. And the Higher Education Commission itself provided us with a very high-speed internet bandwidth. So that is how it became possible for the universities like ComStats to change to this online teaching. Initially, there was a hesitation on part of both the faculty and the students, but nevertheless, everybody was cognizant of the fact that this is the only way that we can take up this business. Moving past, there had been certain challenges in taking up this, and I would like to briefly share those with you. First and foremost was the challenge of technology itself, that the internet connectivity or the connection was not available with a section of the students, although it was available with the majority, but still there was a small section with whom this internet connectivity was an issue, and that was primarily because that they either resided at a distant or smaller towns, or it might be on some pecuniary accounts that they could not afford those internet connections. The other issues are related to the lack of audiovisual aids or the recording aids that were not available with the teaching faculty at their homes. So they had to have some makeshift arrangements, and that was a bit of a toll on them. So some support and assistance was provided by the universities and some by the teachers on their own. And then they tried to transform their classroom teaching to the online teaching. Another issue was related to the abysmally poor economic conditions of a section of the students, because either they had to share their computers or the mobile phones with a number of siblings, and then they were not left with enough time actually to get their lectures and other material in time. And also because of some of the socio-cultural norms in which the girls students found it very difficult actually to have time on certain designated hours, because as it happens in our society that when the girls are at home, they have to assist their mothers in the household chores. So several of these issues, some of them might be peculiar to other countries, but some to a context like ours. But nevertheless, this system has evolved during this time. Some of the reservations of the students, for example, the availability of the internet connection, they have been facilitated by the national regulator in terms of allowing them some subsidized packages. And also, there were some apprehensions of the students in terms of the assessment of the teaching that was being imparted. So listening to the students and slightly adapting to some of the systems in the classroom teaching to the online teaching, so these concerns were addressed. Although I can say that the university administration, the regulators seem satisfied, there is some skepticism still there with the students, as they think that the system has not been that efficient, or there is not much parity between the classroom teaching and the online teaching. In terms of this experience, whether it can be replicated or whether it can continue, or it is a reversible thing, as we understand now, we think that at least part of it is irreversible, because as experience entails, this has offered a lot of advantages as well in undoing some of the temporal and spatial boundaries, and also in subsidizing education, because now the universities are also thinking that they might not need to invest in the large campuses. They can instead invest in technology. So I think that if some lessons are learned from this experience and that they are passed on to the let's say school education in Pakistan, which fares almost at second from the bottom, in which we have 25 million children out of school. So there, this use of this technology offers a promise, and also it offers promise in the higher education sector itself, because we only have about 10% of our eligible age cohort enrolled in the universities, and still 90% of the students are out of the higher education stream. So in this sense, this COVID-19 has also helped us sensitize and also helped us move past this transition very quickly, which might have otherwise taken a longer time. And now we are, as a university administration and also the national planners are getting convinced that these lessons need to be emulated and these lessons needs to be carried further. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tahir Naeem, for giving us an account of the challenges being faced by students in regards to accessibility, physical accessibility, infrastructure requirements, socioeconomic barriers. So now let me move on to our next panelist. I think so. Now we have actually talked a little bit about what types of barriers there exists. So now let me hand over to Mr. Julius Sweetland, so who's a software developer, and he can fill us in a little bit about how technology, accessibility, assistive tech in general, and what are the basic major challenge in terms of digital accessibility that would seek to address. Julius, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Gardozi. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. To start with, who am I? I'm Julius Sweetland. I'm a professional software developer from London. I mainly work within finance, writing that sort of software. But in 2010, my aunt died from motor neuron disease. And it was an experience that made me realize what accessible technology is, how expensive it is, how substandard a lot of it is, and the challenges that some people are facing, not just getting access to this technology, but price points at which it's available. So at the time, I saw solutions that allow people to speak for up to $20,000, $30,000. So I set about from about 2012 to create something that was better. I didn't think these solutions were very good. And crucially, I wanted to create something that was more affordable. So accessibility is a huge topic. And the title of my 5 minutes is developing free digital tools for all to counter accessibility challenges. So the free digital accessibility tool that I created is called OptiKey. Very briefly, what OptiKey is, it's a free open source piece of software. The simplest way to imagine it, if you haven't seen it or heard about it, is if you imagine you have a parent, you can't use your computer using a physical mouse or keyboard. So how do you do this? How do you write an email? How do you surf the internet? How do you speak on Zoom as we are now? One answer is to control your computer using your eyes. And this is exactly what OptiKey allows you to do, as well as to generate speech so that you can communicate with your doctors, your family, your friends around you. OptiKey displays text or symbol keys on your screen. And then just by looking at them, you can make selections to type as if you were using a keyboard, control your mouse as if you were holding a mouse, or to generate speech, which put together, it allows you to achieve anything that you could do with your computer, and to speak with the people in the room with you. I touched on affordability as being one of the main things that I was targeting. So what does this cost? Well, OptiKey is completely free. You can go to www.optikey.org right now. You can download it. Won't cost you anything ever. And you can use it even if you don't have an eye tracker. You can try it out using your mouse. But if you want to control your computer using your eyes, you need an affordable little device, an eye tracking device, which costs $150 US, and that's it. So the $20,000 to $30,000 systems, they've come down to $150, and that was really my target. That's what I wanted to achieve with this project. So right now there are thousands of people who use OptiKey every day to communicate and to access their world. It's available for free in almost 30 different languages, including Urdu. I have limited time. So if you want to see more about OptiKey, to learn about it, YouTube's probably a good place to start. There are many videos of people using it, showing what it's capable of doing and the situations that people find it useful for. Very, very briefly, I think I've got a couple of minutes left. The next phase of OptiKey is what I'm most excited about at the moment. It is unimaginatively called Project Pakistan. and it involves setting up an accessibility center in Islamabad to start with, to give what I see as some of the most marginalized people access to complete eye tracking solutions and support to use them and succeed using them for free. It's been delayed slightly by COVID, but inshallah, we're going to resume very, very soon. Now, to wrap up, I just wanted to bring OptiKey into the overall theme of this forum, which is digital accessibility in a COVID-19 world. For all of us, COVID-19 has presented new challenges. Many of us have been relying on our computers much more than normal. Tools like Microsoft Teams, Zoom, are giving us access to social activities, the ability to attend meetings for work, classes for school, etc., etc. And I was thinking, to a small degree, we've all experienced a little bit of the reliance many people have on their accessibility tools like OptiKey. When lockdown's finally lifted, much will go back to normal for us. But I think it's very important that we keep in mind the challenges that will remain for people living with motor limitations, and how important it is that we work to make these tools not only available, but affordable for everyone who needs them, to be able to to live their lives as fully as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Julius, for the wonderful wrap-up of the assistive tech and how it can be made more affordable. So I think rather than just letting Julius speak about it, let us hand over to Mr. Hamza Afridi, who is actually a user of the assistive technology that Julius has just developed, OptiKey. So we'll hear more on the account of Hamza, and Hamza can actually give us a more real life account rather than just talking about it. So over to you, Hamza. Thank you very much for joining us. You need to unmute your mic, Hamza.
Hello, everyone. My name is Hamza Afridi. It's nice to be here. Thank you for having me. First of all, let me introduce myself. I went to the University of Wolverhampton to study business management, and after graduation, I set up a clothing brand as well as I run a charity called Afridi Brothers Society. We will be working with Project Pakistan, and I hope this project can change things in Pakistan, and we can make a difference to people's lives, people who live with disabilities, because I feel that anybody can achieve anything if they have the right resources, and they can make a difference to their situation. To start off with, I want to talk about the challenges I faced through my experiences. In the UK, it's been 15 years. The quality of care is a lot better compared to Pakistan. And even the assistive technology is a lot better. But even then, I feel, however, that these technologies are expensive and very substandard. If you heard Julius, he said that they're substandard and very expensive, and they're not very useful to the user. So until 18 months ago, when I first met Julius, there was no technology that me or my brother could use to interact online, and there were software out there which were substandard, and the accuracy was not good. You couldn't work. It was very distracting. And then when I met Julius, he introduced me to his software, OptiKey, which is an amazing tool for a person with a disability. I think this can be used with a person with any disability can use this, and it's not very expensive. Fortunately, I come from a well-off family, but even then, I feel this software can help individuals who have lack of resources. And I feel we can develop more things in the future through this technology. And I believe that Junius's technology is the best on the market, and we can use it to utilize and change people's lives, and maybe we can even empower people with disabilities to be able to live independently and have a career and have a life which can be fulfilling. And they can live a normal life, and I believe everyone deserves equal opportunities, irrespective of their race, religion, disability, color, etc. Just to end off, I just want to thank Julius for his support, and he's helped me achieve a lot, and he's even given happiness to my brother, who was very depressed before we could use any software, and Julius was able to change my brother's life and make a difference to his situation, and I would like to do the same thing for people in Pakistan who unfortunately cannot afford things like this, and hope to work with Julius to change this situation and help people with disabilities even around the world. Thank you for your time, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Hamza. Indeed, that was amazing, and it's such a heartwarming, account of what you have just told us. So I think now we should move on to our next panelist. Lubna, are you there? Have you joined, Lubna? I can see some pen.
Can you hear me, Lubna? Yes. Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon. It
Lubna,
depends on the timing.
Change your name, because your name is coming up as my name. So if you want to go, with that name, that's fine. But I think you suggest you change. If you click on the three dots on the corner of your name, and just rename yourself to yourself, so like all the attendees and participants and panelists can see your actual name.
Yeah, can I do it after speaking? I don't know how to use Zoom. This is the first time
so that is a digital accessibility issue right there, Lubna.
Yeah.
So let me
this is one of the obstacles, and I'm so happy to be in Pakistan through the network.
Thank you very much, Lubna. Indeed, and you are Ms. Lubna is like our ambassador for INIT in Tunisia, in the African region, because she has very, very wholeheartedly supported all of our disability initiatives for persons with disabilities. So Lubna, I will hand over to you to give an account of the main challenge that you have faced while working in Tunisia or in the African region in general. So over to you, Lubna.
Okay, I will permit me to start from the beginning and from the general situation to the COVID period, okay? To the COVID period, COVID-19 period. Since the coronavirus came, the situation has been harder and harder, okay? So my experience with the IT, and especially as a having a physical disability, started with using the Dragon speech recognition program. And whenever I speak to my computer, it was so nice and so easy to open the files, to move to one application to another, and to be self-reliant, And this assistance was not for a long time because I have the train coming near my house and passing near my house, and the noise has disturbed everything whenever I dictate or I am speaking to it in order to write my document and so on. So it was not so helpful, you know. And I wanted to, by the way, to present my project, which is technology for people with disability. The championship that I won in Geneva in the International Summit of Information Society. I have tried to make people with disability and without disability to make co-working space and to thrive the entrepreneurship upon the internet social media. But unfortunately, my government didn't see that as in the past as something which is very, very interesting. And looking at the situation that we are going through since the revolution, we didn't have a stable government, you know. And speaking about the Arab world in general and the MENA region, let's say, North Africa also, Middle East and so on, it's worse than the European people with disability situation and so on. During the COVID-19 or the coronavirus confinement, being in quarantine and working through the internet, I have really discovered that persons with no disability, and I won't say they are normal, we are all normal, without disabilities, persons without disabilities, and especially my colleagues, my father also in my family, dad has discovered what is to be confined in one's room, what is to be in between four walls, what is to be a person who cannot move and who cannot see the outer world. Although I am thankful to the world and to Allah, because I am lucky to God. I'm lucky to have an open family, open-minded family. I have a car and so on, but we have to compare that to others. If I have work, others don't. If I can speak my voice, others are voiceless. If I can speak about our situations, others have more problems than I do. So my mission here as an INET ambassador and the representative of the ITU in the Arab region, I want and I beg the minister and the professors and the United Nations, in which I had a speech in their headquarters in Geneva. I wish they can have a look at us and speak the voiceless. We have to say that the work through the internet is very, very interesting. We have developed so many applications during the coronavirus period and quarantine. We have discovered so many talents in our young people around the world, not only in Tunisia. And by the way, I have to thank all the medical doctors and all the engineers who are studying, working, and making some research in the IT field because they have progressed during this coronavirus period, and they made some amazing applications that are accessible and that are really so humane. I always say that the IT needs the human clock, and we need to humanize technology. We need to make it general and for all. When I attended ICT for all since 4 years ago, and for many times, I said it's not for all. When it was held here, it was not directed to the Tunisian or the Arab students, because we need to give them the push to work upon assistive technology, especially. They have their projects. And Akbar and Tim, I think that you've been here in Tunisia and you saw the degree of their willingness to do many things, but the challenge of material or thing or being financed still the major rock in front of them. So we need to encourage them, and we need to be supported ourselves, including me. I think that the best bounty of life is the power of thinking, and thinking positively made me surmount many obstacles. It made me excel and made others too. They are shining. So many in the Arab world are shining, and in Africa too, being the renowned continent as being poor. But I'm sorry to say, Africa is rich with the minds of its people, rich with the power of their youth, rich with the patience of the women, especially rural women who have no technology and who are working in agriculture and textile and so on, so clothing and so on. They need to be voiced. They need to be supported. They need to be encouraged. And Pakistani women, I know, when they cook, I wish to have some recipes online. I wish, for example, to eat paratha again. I wish to have some things which I shared with my friends abroad. So to make cross-cultural connection is very, very important through the internet. And I'm sorry if I've been so long in my speech,
It's all right, Lubna. So,
do I have still time?
If you can wrap up, so I think because we've got other participants, panelists waiting as well. So
Okay, thank you for your invitation, and thank you for the lady who is making the sign language for translating for our friends. Thank you very much, Akbar. Thank you for
very
all
much,
the team.
Lubna. Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to listen to you. Thank you,
Thank
Lubna.
you. Thank you.
Okay, so that was the wonderful, amazing Miss Lubna Smida from Tunisia. So now I think we will move on to our panelists from Pakistan Disabled Foundation. So we have Professor Shahid Ahmed Memon, the chairman of Pakistan Disabled Foundation, and with him we have Miss Shakila Yasmin. So Professor Shahid is going to open up with the difficulty and challenge for persons with disability in this COVID-19 situation, and then Ms. Shakila can elaborate more on the use of technology and accessibility. So over to you, Professor Shahid Memon.
Thank you. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Once again, and first of all, I would like to express the deepest thanks to the organizers, coordinators, and facilitators for allowing us an opportunity, the particularly disabled community, because they are practically facing the problem. So this is encouraging sign, and I'm extremely grateful. Secondly, I would start my expression by quoting the expression of Professor Tahir Naeem, that policy guideline in developing countries, particularly to go ahead for any purpose, we require policy document and policy guideline, so we can adopt the proper channel and do that. Because in Pakistan, as you know, till now the authorities are not aware enough, and that is why they are not interested enough. So the organization like Pakistan Disabled Foundation and others are doing their effort, and during last 2 years, luckily we have been succeeded to motivate the Ignite, and through them the universities like COMSET and other universities, and we arranged some training courses, and we gave the incentive to our young generation, and now they are to the maximum possible extent they are using. But you know, there are limitations. First of all, as I told, maybe in UK, Mr. Timben, the traditions are policy guidelines. So you don't consider, maybe not consider this is much important. But in Pakistan, it is very much important to have the policy guideline, and I hope the private sector, like University and software developers, will join us, and inshallah we will try to make that document, and that will make much more easier to meet out with the challenge of Corona. So far, we are really, our disabled community is doing well, and there are two definite problems. One is an awareness at the level of development of software also, and secondly, the arrangement of softwares and technology, which is making more difficult. And thirdly, a large population is illiterate and living in rural areas, so they have no accessibility of digital facility. So we have to make that, and there is no doubt that digital facility is much more important for disabled community than the normal one, because normal people has been confined to their home and to their situation temporarily. But due to the limitations and the obstacles, the disabled people are mostly depend upon the distant technology. So I think it is very much important for, and we are thankful that the attention has been given. I would like to say much more, Ms. Shakila, because she is practically dealing. We have a lot of to say, but I think we have to take practical steps. And again, I will say, in Pakistan Disabled Foundation, in future we'll try to get this policy document through the authorities, and in that way we will start proper work to meet out with the challenge of the Corona. Thank you so much. Mic is over to Ms. Shakila.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. These days, entire world facing the challenge due to COVID-19. but I think the life of disabled persons is whole life of disabled persons is in challenge. The IT information technology is information technology and digital accessibility is very much needed for disabled persons, not only in this time, before COVID-19. It is very important for disabled persons because they can do every thing with the help of this technology. But I think, as Mr. Shahid Memon told, the situation is different in different world, like developing countries and third world countries. And this situation, as mentioned in Dr. Tahir Naeem in his expression, that many on the topic of online classes, parents faces many problems and issues because they don't have many gadgets and internet technology for their children at a time. Like that, in Pakistan, we nowadays have very much facilities in documents, but not practically, like PTA provide us many facilities on internet, through internet, and State Bank provide many facilities for disabled persons. But practically we are failed because they are the government and the policy makers are failed to fail to implement these facilities, because we as a visually impaired person, if I want to need internet banking, so they can the bank can then the bank refuse me, and the bank services, then the bank provide us ATM service, but there are I think in Karachi there are 2 or 3 ATM machines they have they are talking, but due to this situation we are in need of digital accessibility, but the implementation is very slow and weak. So it as a disabled person, as a blind person, I think that before COVID-19 we face all these problems, and in COVID-19 we are facing same situation. I think
rather we are the victims. By the way, I would like to congratulate Mr. Julius, Madam Lubna, particularly to Mr. Hamza. I was really impressed, and I got impression that we can start a special research, and inshallah I will try to do that. Mr. Hamza, congratulations.
Thank you, Professor Memon. Ms. Shakila, would you like to add something, or should?
No, it's okay. That's I think it's okay. And I say thanks to INIT and other than Mr. Tingbin and Mr. Julius doing marvelous job for people like Hamza Afridi, and Allah may bless him.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ms. Shakila, Professor Memon. Thank you very much. Indeed, it is always lovely to hear from Professor Shahid Memon and Ms. Shakila. So they have been our ardent supporters in our cause of inclusion for all. So I think we are just about to enter into the Q&A session. So may I please hand over to our next moderator, Professor Tim Unwin, wrap up and then manage the Q&A session from the audience, if any.
Thanks,
Over
Akbar.
to you, Professor.
By my clock, we only have 6 minutes until we close. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I think I've seen other sessions, we can take a little bit of Levi, so you can just wrap up and then we can see if you've got any.
Okay, well, let's. Lots of people have been using the Zoom chat, and I hope you can find pieces there. And also there is the Q&A link. If you click on Q&A at the bottom of your screen, you ought to be able to ask questions there. But if anybody would like to, I think will the organizers have to open the sound for people who want to speak? Quite easy. If you put your question on the chat, I can then read it out loud and we can then share it amongst the speakers. So do use if you're able to. And while we're waiting for those to come in, perhaps if any of the panelists would like to ask another panelist a question, this would be a good opportunity. Okay, let me say, Julius, I mean, you and I earlier this year spent a wonderful time in Pakistan meeting with many people on this panel. And beyond your own specific work, were there any insights you'd like to share about what I think it was your first visit to Pakistan? What the most pressing needs for people with disabilities were there, and how they may have been made all the more important subsequently by COVID?
Well, I mean, we met a lot of people with a lot of different challenges. The one that struck me, not a specific case, but it's the lack of tooling that I saw. I was struck by the fact that accessibility tools for everyone available in Urdu, and I think it's a failing of government, really, that this money hasn't been made available. So it's little things down to there aren't computer voices to allow people without voices to speak in Urdu, and where they do exist, they're very tightly controlled. They're not made available. It's just this sort of lack of, this is a thing which should be governed at government level. This should be funded, this should be driven, this should be made available. Yeah.
Going to cut you there because a question has come in, which is what 3 things should better government policy coherence for making it more inclusive? So just one each, quick fire. And that's from Shamira Ahmed. Thank you, Shamira. Just Hamza, start with you. Just one thing that you think, very briefly, governments could do in terms of policy.
I think governments can allocate funds and make sure they're people who have the skill and knowledge to manufacture products which can be utilized to make a difference to people's lives with disability.
Fantastic. That's great. So funding and getting appropriate products that are inclusive. Lobna, do you have one quick one you'd like to raise? One thing the government's good, because you've been involved in policy.
Yes, please. Thank you, Tim. Actually, our internal or national laws are including in the article number 48 the access to everything concerning IT, information technology and communication should be accessible for everybody, and we need to actualize the law number 19, our right for the information in the UN. So how can we have the correlation or our suggestions to the United Nations from our countries easily, without protocols and without waiting for a long time in order to activate them and to make it as international laws.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. So how can we elevate national to the UN system? Akbar, I'm worried we're going to be shut off. So let me just say a few final words and then we could continue a little bit. But first of all, I'd just like to thank you and Dr. Tahir Naeem and the INIT more broadly on behalf of us all for pulling this together. You've done a fantastic amount of work. I'm very grateful for that.
Thank you.
Special thank you to Nasreen Agai for doing signing. It's incredibly tiring, particularly when hearing is not necessarily that easy, but brilliant to see you. And Tina, thank you also for doing the close captioning. I've been inspired as ever by the people here, Shahid Memon and everybody else. So I think since we're meant to finish now, and I'm sure other people should go for other things, we should probably close it there. I know, though, that you, Akbar, have some more formal closing comments. I hope that the comments on the chat and in answering the questions have gone some way to responding. I hope you've all the attendees here have been inspired by what we've heard. What matters now is that we all go out and do something differently. We have to make sure that digital tech is inclusive and at critical times like this, work together to ensure that people with disabilities who are amongst the most marginalized actually can have the benefits from digital tech that they're able to. People with greater disabilities have much more to gain from the use of appropriate, effective, affordable digital technologies than those of us who have fewer disabilities. Just remember that. We must work together to achieve these objectives. Back to you, Akbar.
Thank you very much, Tim. And I think I speak on behalf of all the panelists and participants when I say this. Okay, so for the formal closing, I would like to thank everyone, and especially our VISIS team who have been running in the background, doing all the technical steps. Thank you very much, VISIS team, for making this all possible. I would also like to formally thank all the VISIS sponsors this year, especially Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, UAE, Internet Society, ICANN, and all the other platinum, gold, and bronze partners who have made this event possible. So thank you, everyone. And so I think they are sharing the slides for our guests. So thank you very much. So this is the platinum partners and their slides being shared.
Akbar, please.
Yes, Lubna.
There is a very important question here. One of our friends said, do people with disability help each other upon while using the internet during COVID-19 period?
Okay, so would you like to address that question, Lubna?
Yes, please.
Please do.
I have my blind friend, Mohammed from Egypt. He helped me to install many applications during the confinement and quarantine, and during the quarantine, and he was dictating to me what I do using the voice trailer, and I was applying his instructions, and it was so helpful. Even me, I was reading for him the PDF, the PDF documents in some times, and it was really so helpful because PDF cannot be read by the NVDA or by JAWS. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Lubna. Thank you for answering and addressing that question. So I think there are some questions pouring in. We will actually, I think this session is also being recorded, so it would be shared live as well. And any of the questions, if anybody wants to send us the questions, please do at init@comsats.edu.pk or the ITU address that was given at the start of the session. So I think formally, I would like to thank everyone for showing up. So we had more than 55 participants from across the world and our distinguished panelists. from across the world as well. So on behalf of INIT, ComStats University, Islamabad, UNESCO Chair in ICT for Development, Ministry of IT, Government of Iran, I would like to thank you all for attending this webinar. Thank you very much, and Allah Hafiz. Disconnect.